right? So IC engine testing, right? This is a problematic part and a very simple one. Okay, so this is the last part of the second unit, right? So why we should test the engine, right? So what is the main purpose of testing the engine, right? So as a common man, our aim is what is the mileage of the engine, right? So how much mileage the engine is going to give, that is the only concern for the common person, right now. So means it is the fuel economy, that is fuel efficiency. I can call it a specific fuel consumption. Means in order to generate 1 kilowatt power, 1 kilowatt power, what is the mass of the fuel required? That is the specific fuel consumption. Okay, so the main purpose of testing the IC engine is to determine the information which cannot be obtained from calculations. Right. So the main purpose is to determine the information that cannot be calculated by using the formulas. Okay, and to confirm the data used in the design, right? So while designing, let us say they will give this one can withstand up to 1000 degrees centigrade, right? The material they are choosing for design, they may withstand for 1000 degrees centigrade, but in working, whether it is withstanding or any, there may be any failures are taking place, all these things are going to check during the testing of the engine, right? And the main important parameter is the satisfying the customer. How to satisfy the customer? To give better efficiency, whether the engine is giving more fuel efficiency or not, to satisfy the customer regarding the performance, right? Customer needs the power of the engine and next fuel efficiency. These are the only concerns of the customer, right now, right? Right. So basically, we can conduct two types of test. One is the commercial test, and second one is the thermodynamic test. Right. Right. So in commercial test, we are going to find out the output with respect to fuel consumption. That is the fuel economy. Right now. So in a specific fuel consumption, related power output with respect to fuel consumption. How much amount of fuel is required to generate this much amount of power output? That is the fuel consumption. And quantity of lubricating oil and cooling water required, right? So means how much amount of lubricating oil is required, how much amount of cooling water, right? So these are the things we are going to find by conducting the commercial test. Means after using, is there any change in the level of the cooling water? Means whether the level is within the limits within. So if you see coolant box, there will be reservoir will be there, plastic box will be there, right? So from this it is supplied to the radiator, and there will be two marks over there, maximum level and minimum level. Always we should take care that the coolant should be between these two limits. It should not be below the minimum value. If it is below the minimum value, what will happen? So the coolant may not be in a position to cool completely, right? Required amount of heat, it cannot be carried. So therefore, overheating of engine will be problem. Okay. So to check after using whether the coolant is decreasing or same level, or that's it, right? In the same way, we are going to check the lubricating oils also. Means is the lubricating oil is getting evaporated or not? When the lubricating oil will be evaporated, if the cooling is not perfect, if the cooling is not perfect, what will happen? The engine will be overheated. Once the engine is overheated, there may be chances of burning of lubricating oil also, right now. So that is the reason, right? And to check steadiness of an engine when loaded at different loads, so by changing the load, is the engine is working properly or is it is malfunctioning? So we are going to check the in commercial test. And to check the timing of valves, means all the valves are opening at the required time or not, are they closing at the required time or not, right? And is the fuel is injected at the correct time or not? Means in case of diesel engine, it should inject at the end of the compression, right now, right? At the same time, whether the spark is at the injecting at the required position. To check all the parameters, we are doing this test. And overload carrying capacity of the engine also be determined by conducting commercial test. Whereas in case of thermodynamics test, all technical terms will be there, right? Right. It is related to performance of the engine, and we are going to find out indicated power. So by conducting this thermodynamic test, that is in our labs we are conducting, it is indicated power, brake power, and third one frictional power. Frictional power, right? Now, what is mean by indicated power? So indicated power is the power that is developed within the engine cylinder. So the power developed within the cylinder, within the engine cylinder, right? So by burning the air fuel mixture, so the power we are going to generate, the power available at inside the engine, the power available inside the engine is called indicated power. And from this one, the power is transmitted through the piston, then connecting rod, then crankshaft, and via gear drive or chain drive, the power will be transmitted. Right now, this is the power cycle. So first, this is the, let us say this is the engine cylinder, right? And we are burning the fuel, air fuel mixture here. So here the power available inside the engine cylinder is the indicated power. From here, the power is transmitted through the piston, connecting rod, and crank, and here we have crankshaft, and this is the gear mounted over the crankshaft. Again, by using this one, right? So by using gear drive or chain drive, the power is transmitted to the rear wheels, right? So what will happen when the power is transmitting? So through the piston, connecting rod, crankshaft, right? So there will be certain power is going to loss, right? Now, so wherever we are transmitting the mechanical power, wherever we are transmitting the mechanical power, always there may be chances of friction. There may be chances of friction. Due to the friction, the power available at the rear wheel, the power available at the wheels is always less than the power developed within the engine cylinder, right? Now, so this is the power available at the wheels, power at the wheels, right? Now, right. Next, so the power that is lost during the transmission from engine cylinder to the rear wheel, that is the frictional power. It is obtained by subtracting the brake power from the indicated power. IP minus BP is equals to FP, right? Now, right. Is it is clear? The relation between indicated power, brake power, and frictional power. The power that is developed within the engine cylinder is the indicated power, and from the engine cylinder the power is transmitted to the rear wheel. Therefore, the power available at the rear wheel of the engine is called brake power, and during the transmission of power from engine to the wheels, there will be certain loss will be there. That loss is called frictional loss, and that power is the frictional power, right? So suppose while solving the problem, right? So you required IP, but IP is not there, but BP is given. Right now, you can consider the BP as IP at that situation, because by assuming frictional losses are negligible, because we required IP, but it is not given. Instead of IP, brake power is given. Right now, so very small variation will be there from IP to BP. Okay, so at that time I can say IP is almost equal to BP, and I can consider it as IP. Okay, but whenever frictional power is given, then we can calculate IP by adding frictional power to the brake power, right? Now, so brake power plus frictional power is equals to indicated power, right? And the pressure developed within the engine cylinder, the pressure developed within the engine cylinder is called indicated mean effective pressure, right? Indicated mean effective pressure, and it is denoted with IMEP, indicated mean effective pressure, right? How to calculate mean effective pressure? Mean effective pressure can be calculated so by dividing work done with swept volume, right? Now, so mean effective pressure can be calculated by dividing work done with swept volume, right? Now, and to find, and the thermodynamic test is carried to find the fuel consumption, that is the economy of the fuel. How much amount of fuel is consumed to generate this much amount of power to travel this many kilometers? For that, what is the air required? How much amount of mass of air is required to burn this much amount of fuel? And to determine mechanical efficiency, thermal efficiency, and volumetric efficiency of the engine, right? So mechanical efficiency is any efficiency is the output by input, right? Now, so what is the output we are getting here? Mechanical efficiency is brake power by indicated power. Okay, mechanical efficiency is the output power to the input power. Output power is the brake power, and input power is the indicated power, right now. So similarly we can calculate thermal efficiency. The thermal efficiency is the brake thermal efficiency, okay, and similarly the volumetric efficiency can also be calculated. And how the cooling water is flowing, right now, the rate of flow of cooling water means with respect to time, right, means let us say if you are changing the load, if you are increasing the speed, is there any change in the rate of the flow of the cooling water? Obviously the cooling water rate should be increased. Yes sir, if the engine speed is increased, what will happen? It will become heat in less time, therefore more amount of cooling. That is the rate of cooling water. Rate is nothing but the flow of the water per time. The rate of flow of cooling water per time is the flow rate, and the flow rate should increase for increasing the speed or load on the engine, right? And how much amount of heat is carried by the cooling water also we can calculate, and how much amount of heat is carried by the exhaust gases. How much amount of heat is carried by the exhaust gases can also be calculated by conducting the thermodynamic. What are the tests we are doing? What are the experiments we are doing in our labs? That comes under thermodynamic point of view. Okay, and these commercial tests they will conduct before releasing the any vehicle. Okay, and one more thing is the pollution test, right now, PUC, pollution under control test, right? So it is the process of adjusting. What is by PUC? What we are going to do? So by conducting this PUC we are going to know that how much amount of carbon monoxide, how much amount of hydrocarbons are releasing to the atmosphere, or these quantities are within the given limits, right, or not, they will check it. Okay, right. So here if they are not within the limit, what they need to, we need to adjust the air fuel mixture. We need to adjust the air fuel mixture, right, so that we can change the amounts of pollutants releasing to the atmosphere. Generally carbon monoxide is measured in terms of percentage, and hydrocarbons are measured in terms of ppm. Ppm is the parts per million, right? Right. So frictional power, right? As I told, frictional power is nothing but indicated power minus brake power, right? So frictional power can be calculated by using the following methods. First one is the by motoring test, and Williams straight line method, and Morse test, right? So by using these three tests we can measure the frictional power of the engine, right? So in case of motoring test, what we are going to do, first we are going to run the engine at full speed, right? Engine is first run up to the desired speed by its own power. First engine is going to run with the rated speed. Let us say if engine rpm is 1500, now the engine is allowed to run at 1500 rpm. Let us say it is the rated speed, right? So now the engine is allowed to run at the same speed and load condition for some, means so that it will become, the temperature will be distributed uniformly, right? So we are allowing the engine to run on same speed and load for some time, so that the temperature of oil, water and engine component reaches to the stable condition, right? Means the temperature distribution will be uniform within the cooling water, within the engine and in the lubrication also, right? Now the power of the engine during the period is absorbed by the dynamo, right? So dynamometer is a device which is used to measure the brake power of the engine. So basically dynamometer is a device which is used to, so this dynamometer is different, and in our cars we are using dynamo, that is different. Yes or no? We are calling it as alternator or dynamo. What is the purpose? Tell me. What is the purpose of dynamo or alternator we used to call?
Charge the battery, sir.
Yes, to charge the battery. But this dynamometer is a device which is used to measure the brake power developed by the engine. Okay, so the power of the engine during the period is measured by using the dynamometer. That is the power is nothing but always the power is the brake power. Okay, because that is the power available at the wheels. Okay, now so what we did in motoring test, first the engine is allowed to run at the rated speed and load, and we are maintaining that engine for some time so that the engine will come to the stable position. Now we are measuring the power by using the dynamometer. Next what we are doing, now the fuel supply is cut off. Now the fuel supply is cut off. If it is a spark ignition engine, by short circuiting the spark plug. If it is a diesel engine, by cut off the fuel supply. Okay, now what we are doing, we are cutting off the fuel supply in case of diesel engine, and we are short circuiting the spark plug in case of petrol engine, right? And what we are doing, we are now what will happen, whatever the power it is delivered earlier, I want to deliver the same power. So what I am doing, so I am supplying power to the dynamometer, means I am making this dynamometer as a motor. Right now I am supplying power from external source to the dynamometer. So this dynamometer can run also a motor to drive the engine at the same speed, whatever the speed, let us say earlier it is driven at 1500 rpm. Now I need to run the engine at 1500 rpm without supplying the fuel. Right, for that what I am doing, I am converting the dynamometer as a motor, and for that I am supplying some external power. Then the power supplied to the motor is measured, and it is the measure of frictional power of the engine. This is the motoring test. Okay, right. Whereas in case of Williams straight line method, so we are going to plot a graph between mass of fuel versus brake power. Mass of fuel versus brake power. Okay, right. So if you plot a graph, so this graph is going to cut brake power at a point. Right, a point where the straight line cuts the BP is the frictional power of the engine. The point where the graph cuts the brake power axis, that is the frictional power of that particular engine. Right, this is the old method. Now new one we are using Morse test. Right, so nowadays we are using Morse test to conduct, to find out frictional power. Also we can calculate indicated power developed by each cylinder. So Morse test can be used to measure the frictional power. Once you know frictional power, we can measure indicated power. Even I can say that it is also used to measure brake power. Means Morse test can be used to measure all the three powers: indicated power, brake power, and frictional power. Right now, let us consider 4-cylinder engine. Let us consider 4-cylinder engine. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right now, how to calculate indicated power developed by first cylinder? So can I write IP1 is equals to brake power developed by cylinder 1 plus frictional power developed by cylinder 1, right now? Or else from this I can write brake power developed by first cylinder is equals to indicated power developed minus frictional power. Yes or no? Can I write for first cylinder BP1?
Yes, sir.
Similarly, I can write BP2 as IP2 minus FP2, brake power developed by second cylinder, and brake power developed by third cylinder, indicated power minus frictional power, and BP4 is equals to, we are going to do this test in our lab also. BP4 is equals to, listen carefully, IP4 minus FP4. So means this is the brake power developed by second cylinder, brake power developed by third cylinder, and brake power developed by fourth cylinder. Now how to get the total brake power? Now if I want the total brake power, sum of the all, right now? Right. So therefore, when 4 cylinders are working, it's not when 4 cylinders are in working, when 4 cylinders are in working, means cylinder 1, 2, 3, and 4. All these three, all 4 cylinders are connected to a common crankshaft. Okay, we know that. Right. Therefore, BP, total BP is equals to, BP is equals to brake power is equals to brake power developed by first cylinder, brake power developed by second cylinder, third cylinder, and fourth cylinder. Okay, so this is the total brake power, right? So now I can write in terms of IP and FP, IP minus IP1 minus FP1. plus IP2 minus FP2 plus IP3 minus FP3. This is indicated power minus frictional power is the brake power. And similarly for fourth cylinder, IP4 minus FP4. Right, because and again these all connecting rods mounted over a common crankshaft. Right. Next, what we are doing? Let us assume it is a diesel engine. Okay. Let us assume it is a diesel engine. Now, what we are doing? We are cutting off the fuel supply to the first cylinder. When first cylinder is cut off by stopping the fuel supply. When first cylinder is cut off, what is the indicated power developed by cylinder 1? When first cylinder is cut off, what is the indicated power developed within the engine cylinder? Cut off means by stopping the fuel. Sorry? We stopped fuel supply to the first cylinder. Then what is the power developed within that cylinder? We are not supplying any fuel. Therefore, the power developed within the first cylinder is zero. Agree?
Yes, sir.
Right. So, though the indicated power is zero, but frictional power exists. Why? Because the four connecting rods are mounted over a common crankshaft, whether the combustion is taking place or not, but the piston is mounted over a common crankshaft. Therefore, the piston will reciprocates. The piston will reciprocates. From where this piston will take the power? The power from other cylinders, right? Now means frictional power will exist. Therefore, brake power, when first cylinder is cut off, brake power developed BP1 is equals to, right? BP1 is equals to IP1 is 0, 0 minus FP1 plus IP2 minus FP2 plus IP3 minus FP3 plus IP4 minus FP4. Right now? Clear so far?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now when second cylinder is cut off, when second cylinder is cut off, means there is no combustion in case of second cylinder. Therefore, no power will be developed. IP2 will be 0, but FP1, this is FP1 and this is FP2 exist. FP2 exists. Therefore, brake power developed BP2 is equals to IP1 minus FP1 and IP2 will be 0, but FP2 will be existing because of the same crankshaft, and IP3 minus FP3 and finally IP4 minus FP4. And similarly, now third cylinder is cut off. When third cylinder is cut off, by stopping the fuel, then IP3 is equal to 0, but FP3 exists. Frictional power will be exists. Therefore, BP3 is equals to IP1 minus FP1 plus IP2 minus FP2 plus IP3 is 0 and FP3 plus IP4 minus FP4. And finally, when fourth cylinder is cut off, IP4 will be 0 and frictional in that cylinder will exist. Okay, so therefore brake power developed is equals to total brake power, that is BP4 is equals to IP1 minus FP1 plus IP2 minus FP2 plus IP3 minus FP3 plus IP4 is 0 minus FP4, right? Now, so let us assume equation number, when all cylinders are working, this is equation 1. When first cylinder is cut off, equation 2, then equation 3, equation 4 and equation 5. right? Now if I want to measure the indicated power developed by the first cylinder, now I want to measure the indicated power developed by the first cylinder. How to do that? Tell me. IP1 I want. You observe the equation 1 and 2. Observe equation 1 and 2, how to get IP1. Which, which operation you are going to perform? Students? If I subtract equation 2 from 1, if I subtract equation 2 1 from, that is BP minus BP1, sorry, 1 minus 2. Equation 2 from 1. So that is equals to BP minus BP1. So in BP and BP1, second, third, fourth terms are same. 1 and 2 if you observed, second term, third term and fourth term say only. In first term in equation 2, IP1 is missing. Therefore, what I am getting, if I subtract BP1 from BP, I will get the IP1. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
IP1. So IP1 is equals to BP minus BP1. Similarly, indicated power developed by the second cylinder, IP2. Indicated power developed by the second cylinder, BP minus BP2. If you subtract third equation from the first equation, here IP is missing, you will get IP2. And IP3 is equals to total brake power minus BP3, and IP4 is equals to BP minus total brake power minus fourth cylinder is cut off. Therefore, once what is IP1? IP1 is the indicated power developed by the first cylinder, and IP2 is the indicated power developed by the second cylinder, and it is indicated power developed by third cylinder and fourth cylinder. Therefore, I want to know the total indicated power developed when all cylinders are working. IP1, IP2, IP3 plus IP4, right now, and I already know BP. And how to get FP? Frictional power is equals to indicated power minus brake power, right? So usually the Morse test is conducted. Morse test is conducted on multi-cylinder engine. It's not suitable for single cylinder. The Morse test is suitable for multi-cylinder engine, and it is used to measure the indicated power and brake power and frictional power developed by each cylinder. It is developed by each cylinder of an engine. Clear? Morse test, very important one, and we are going to perform the same operation in our lab also. So we have petrol engine, we are short circuiting the spark plug. In case of diesel engine, we are cut off the fuel supply by stopping the pump, and in case of the petrol engine, we are not supplying spark to that particular spark plug. Means by short circuiting, by disconnect the connection. Is this Morse test is clear to all of you? Please respond.
Clear, sir.
Right. Right. The same thing is explained over here. Right. Next will be heat balance it, right now. As we know, out of 100% of heat generated within the engine cylinder, right? Out of 100% heat generated within the engine cylinder, right? What is happening? Only 30 to 40% of heat will be useful work. Remaining 60% is waste only. In that 60%, 30% of heat will be carried by the cooling water, and 20 to 30% may be carried by the exhaust gases, and remaining heat may be due to the frictional losses, radiation. These are unaccountable losses, right? So it means what we are doing, from 100% heat generated, how the heat is utilizing, the utilization of heat, the certificate, nothing but heat utilization certificate is nothing but heat balance it out of 100%. That is, we are burning 100% and we are balancing that. Just balancing the heat is the heat balance. It means how much heat equivalent to the indicated power developed, right? And let us say if indicated power is not given, we will equal to brake power. Means 100% means total heat liberated. First, what we are doing, we should calculate total heat liberated. How to know total heat liberated? How much amount of fuel we are burning and what is its calorific value, right? Mass of fuel will be in kg per minute or kg per hour or kg per second, depends upon. Usually heat balance sheet, you will ask, you want heat balance sheet per minute basis, per minute how the heat is utilizing, or sometimes you will ask per hour basis, okay, and sometimes you will ask per second basis. Per hour how the heat is utilizing, per second how the heat is utilizing, right? So heat balance sheet means the out unit should be per hour or per minute or per second, right now, right? So kg per kilowatt hour, sorry, kilojoules per calorific value. Calorific value units are kilojoules per kg and mass units are kg per second, let us say. Means I want heat balance it per second basis. So therefore, if I multiply kg will be cancelled, I'll get kilojoules per second. Kilojoules per second, right now. So like that. Suppose if I want a per minute basis, now the mass of fuel should be in kg per minute. Therefore, I will get the units as kilojoules per minute. Balancing the units, okay, right? So what is heat balance it actually? It is the account of heat supplied and heat utilized in various ways of the system. In various ways of the system, right? So in heat balance sheet, what we are doing, we are plotting a table. We are plotting a table, okay, right? It gives the information of the performance of the engine. It can be done for second basis or minute basis or hour basis, right? And to draw the heat balance sheet, complete test on engines is carried at constant speed without changing the speed. Only we are going to change the load, okay? So what will happen if you load the engine, automatically speed will be decreased, okay? At a particular load we are taking the readings, right? So heat balance sheet is a table, right? Now what are the parameters it contains? First, total heat supplied by the fuel. This is the first one. So heat supplied by the fuel for petrol or diesel engine. So heat supplied is equals to mass of fuel multiplied by its calorific value. Maybe mass of fuel may be in kg per minute and calorific value is kilojoules per kg. Kg will be cancelled. The final units we are getting kilojoules per minute. Okay, where mf is the mass of fuel in kg per minute. Kg per minute and cv is the calorific value, right? Whereas in case of gas engine we don't measure in terms of liter, it will be measured in terms of volume. It is measured in terms of volume, right? So therefore volume of the, so volume will be in terms of meter cube per minute, and for that the calorific value will be kilojoules per meter cube. Earlier the calorific value for petrol and diesel engine, it is kilojoules per kg, and here I am using the, for gas engine, the calorific value of the gas is kilojoules per meter cube. Therefore we will get meter cube will be cancelled. Next, now heat, that is the total heat generated. That is the 100%. Out of 100%, how the heat, how we are utilizing the heat, that is the heat expenditure, right? So heat energy equivalent to IP or BP. If IP data is there, we will consider IP, or if BP data is there, we will consider BP, because BP is the power available at the wheels, right now. So what, how to, there will be formulas to calculate the brake power. So as we know, brake power can be calculated by using dynamometers. So we are going to discuss two types of dynamometers. So Prony brake dynamometer, and row brake dynamometers. Right? So these are the two dynamometers we are going to use to measure the brake power. So there will be formulas related to that we will discuss, and based on that we are going to know how much amount of heat will be consumed in order to produce that much amount of brake power. The remaining heat will be carried by cooling water and exhaust gases, and if anything is remained, that will be radiation losses, and that may be incomplete combustion, or some heat may be carried by the lubrication, right? These are all unaccounted losses, right? So first we will do heat equivalent to BP. So this, let us say brake power into 60, maybe it is in second, to convert into minutes they multiplied by 60, because it may be in kilowatt. Kilowatt is nothing but kilojoules per second, into 60 gives the kilojoules per minute, and heat rejected to the cooling water Q is equals to mc delta T. Q is equals to mc delta T. This is both for exhaust gases as well as cooling water, and mass of water supplied and specific heat of water and temperature difference, temperature of water leaving the engine and temperature of the cooling water supplied to the engine. This gives the amount of heat carried by the cooling water, where Cp is the specific heat of water, and that value is approximately 4.2 kilojoules per kg Kelvin. Kilojoules per kg Kelvin. Then next will be heat carried by the exhaust gases. MC delta T, mass of exhaust gas, Cp of exhaust gases, and temperature difference of the exhaust gas. Where exhaust gases is nothing but, so exhaust gas means it is the combination of fuel and air, Ma plus Mf. Because we are burning air in the presence of, fuel in the presence of air, the exhaust gases is mass is equals to mass of fuel plus mass of air. Okay, right, like this we are going to plot a chart, right? So heat supplied by the combustion of the fuel, that is the 100% in term, right? That from that, this is the item number 1. Item number 2 is the heat equivalent to brake power. Then heat carried by the cooling water, heat carried by the exhaust gas, unaccounted losses. Total 100 we need to balance. This is the heat balance sheet. In heat balance sheet, total how many parameters are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parameters, right? First one is the total heat supplied. Total heat supplied, that is the 100%. Out of 100%, what is 100%? Let us assume I am getting, let us say, 4,000 kilojoules per minute amount of heat I am generating per minute. Let's, for understanding sake, I am getting 4,000 kilojoules per minute. So 4,000 kilojoules per minute is equals to how much percentage? 100%. Now second item is heat equivalent to brake power. Let us say to calculate brake power, let us say I am getting some 1000 kg per minute. So if I calculate brake power, I got 1000, right? Means if 4000 is equals to 100%, 1000 equal to how much? 25%. Getting around, right? Means out of 100%, 25% is carried by the brake power. And let us say next I am calculating cooling water. Let us say cooling water I am getting as 1250 kilojoule per minute. Right? What is the equivalent percentage? Again, you need to do it. So for 4000, it is 100%. Whereas for 1250, what is the equivalent percentage? That value you need to write here, some X value, right? Let us assume it is some 30% approximately by calculating, right? Now, what is the mass of, what is the heat carried by the exhaust gas? Let us say exhaust gas is also, let us assume it is 1250 kilojoules per minute. Okay, so let us say it is also 30. Now out of 100% of heat, how much amount of heat is utilized? 25 plus 30 plus 30, 60 plus 85. Therefore, what is the left out? 100 minus 15, 100 minus 85, it is 15%. This is the 15% is the unaccounted losses. Unaccounted losses, that may be radiation losses or friction losses. Amount of heat will be carried by the lubrication, right? Now what is the value equivalent to kilojoules per minute? 4000 minus these three, 1250, 1250, 2500, 3500. Therefore 500 kilojoules per minute of heat will be wasting due to the unaccounted losses. Right? How to get these values? 1000 and 1250 and 1250. This is MC delta T formula. If you do, you will get it. This is also MC delta T cooling water. And for brake power, we have formulas 2 pi NT by 60,000. 2 pi NT by 60,000 kilowatt. I'll explain. Okay. Right. So by using these formulas, we can calculate the values, and the corresponding percentages we can calculate. Clear this one? Brake power. Sorry, heat balancing.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So with yeah, one more small topic left. Yesterday also I discussed, right? What is Bharat stage, right? So always BS standards, right? Now the current trend is BS6. Now the correct trend is BS6, right? So what is the Bharat stage emission standards, right? So these are the emission standards issued by the government of India to regulate the output of air pollutants, to control the pollutants released from the IC engines, including motor vehicles, okay, even bikes also. The standards and the timeline for implementation are set by Pollution Control Board under the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change. Okay, right. So here the standards based on European regulations were first introduced in the year 2000. right now. So these BS standards came into picture from year 2000 onwards. Progressively, stringent norms have been rolled out since then, and all new vehicles manufactured after or implementation of the norms have to be compliant with the regulations. Since October 2010, BS3 norms have been enforced across the country, right? So BS1 came in 2000, and in between we have BS2 also, and next at October 2010 they implemented BS3 norms. Okay, means whoever is manufacturing the vehicle, they should follow the strictly BS3 norms. That is the reason the Maruti 800 is stopped, because the standards are BS1 and BS2, because the pollutions are more. Okay, so that's why we need to refine the engine according to the pollution control board regulations. Okay, and in 13 major cities BS4 emissions have been placed April 2010. Okay, April 2010. And in 2016 the Indian government announced the country would skip Euro 5 and directly will go to the Euro 6 norms by 2020. Now we are following BS6. Okay, the phasing out of the two-stroke engine for two-wheelers and stop the production of Maruti 800 and introduction of electronic control, means that is ECU, electronic MPFI engines, due to the regulations related to the vehicle emissions. While the norms help in bringing down the pollution levels, it invariably results in increased the vehicle cost due to the improved technology and high fuel prices. However, this increase in the private cost is offset by saving. Because of this, so much advantage is there, because the health costs for public, because if the pollutions are less, the people are healthy. Okay, so as there is lesser amount of disease causing the particulate matter, there is a pollution in the air. Exposure to the air pollution can lead to respiratory and cardiovascular diseases, which is estimated to be cause for 6.2 lakh early deaths in 2010 due to the pollutions. In 2010, 6.2 lakhs people early died. Okay, because that they introduced BS4. Again, now we are following BS6 norms. Okay, right. Just know it is not there in the syllabus, just BS standards. I want to tell you, you should know what is BS standard. Okay, when the standard is increasing, the rate of pollutants are decreasing. At the same time, the engine cost is also increasing. In order to refine the engine, it is a costly affair. Yeah, any doubts you can please. So next class, that is after the internal, we will start practicing problems on this performance of engines.